Lou, how are you, my friend?
Fine, thank you.
You came all the way from San Diego. I want to tell you how much I deeply appreciate that.
Oh, I'm happy to do it.
And we are going to talk about an incredible surf fishing opportunity for fly fishermen, but also conventional anglers. Before we get into that, you and I have a mutual friend, Dr. Nick Curcio. He's not a medical doctor. He's got a PhD in sociology, I think. Nick was my professor at Loyola Marymount University, and Nick, I mean, he really, in my studies at Loyola, later on, he became such a dear friend. He still is. And we have that common acquaintance.
Right, yeah. I met Nick in 1973, I think, when I was a freshman in college. And we were both members of the same saltwater fly fishing club, and we stayed in touch over the years. And, we both share a passion for saltwater fly fishing. And, as a result, we have a lot of common friends in the industry and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's a great guy, funny guy. He's got a great sense of humor. I saw him, it's probably been a year. It's the way time flies at my advanced age. But it was great to see him, and I hope to see him again really, really soon.
Yeah, he's getting over some hip surgery, but he's looking good.
Great,
so
great.
hopefully.
All right, let's cut to the chase, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you got into fly fishing and everything else. But when is this tournament? Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. The tournament actually runs from May 27th to June 23rd.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a month-long tournament, and it's called Riptide Rendezvous. It's for both fly fishermen and regular tackle fishermen. We've got separate divisions. Registration ends May 26th. So the way we're doing it, it's sort of cool. There's an app, so you have to have a smartphone in order to compete.
Everybody's got one nowadays,
yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And that wasn't true when we started the event several years ago, right?
Yeah.
So now it seems pretty commonplace. It's called iAngler Tournament, and all the information is on our website, which I'll talk about in a second. And basically, the app allows you to take a picture of your fish. It's got the GPS coordinates of the photo and that sort of stuff. Yeah, well, so that way, the basic rule is you can fish anywhere from the northern edge of Santa Barbara County down to the Mexican border during that month-long period, anytime, any place it's legal. So that means that instead of trying to squash everybody in 1 or 2 days where maybe the tides aren't right or whatever, you can pick when and where you want to fish.
Wow.
You log your catch on the phone, and it goes up into the cloud where the system sort of tallies things up.
Yeah.
And then on the June 24th, the day after the event ends, we'll have the award ceremony.
Gosh, that sounds great, and it's a whole month. You're going to have some incredible catches, I would think, with that amount of time.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. It's funny. The first couple times we ran the event, we knew that we needed numbers, and so we focused on the barred perch fishery up in Santa Barbara County. So the first couple events were at Rincon, that sort of area.
Where fishing can be quite good for barred perch, right?
Right.
I mean, off the hook.
Right. And but the first couple of years we did it, they were slow years, so fishing was horrible. But the third year that we did it, we had 27 people entered. And in 2 hours, they caught almost 100 fish.
Wow.
Yeah, and so one of the perch was actually close to a foot, and then
that's a nice barred perch.
Yeah, and there was an 18-inch corbina, amazingly enough.
Very nice.
Yeah, early spring. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, really. They're usually showing up when the water warms up a little bit more.
Right. And what was sort of interesting, so that event, we had 6 regular tackle fishermen and 21 fly fishermen. And what was sort of interesting is the fly guys actually did very well, even compared to conventional.
Really?
Yeah, and so, the guy that won the conventional side, or regular tackle side of it, his name's Sean Vake, Tiffany Vake's son.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So,
very nice.
Yeah, Tiffany, I saw Tiffany.
Hey, Tiffany.
Yeah. I saw Tiffany at the Bart Hall show, and she said, he still talks about winning that.
Oh, wow, that's great. Yeah, that kind of thing sticks with you it's all about bragging rights, right?
Right, exactly. You got to kick a bunch of adults' butts, right?
Yeah, right.
So we're hoping, and that's the other thing I forgot to mention. So this is all catch and release artificial lures.
Yes.
And so
for both the fly guys and the
conventional.
Yeah, okay.
So on the conventional side, right, you're going to be doing grubs and sea rigs and maybe lucky crafts, crocodiles, whatever.
Yeah.
And on the fly side, it's whatever you feel like fishing with. Based on number of inches, right? So when you take your picture, the requirement from the rules, you have to have a ruler that the fish is on that we can see the length. And you get 1 point per inch. And we have prizes for most number of inches of fish in a single day. So that's how we sort of even it out, right? So somebody that, say, can fish, is retired like me and can fish 3 or 4 days a week,
Yeah.
doesn't really have a super advantage in the sense that, oh, he's going to rack up a bunch of days, right? It's just whatever the most number of inches in a single day.
Yeah.
And then we also have prize categories for the biggest fish in a bunch of different species. So
What species?
well, so perch, of course, right? And we're doing a combined.
Is that
thing.
like a surf perch or just barred perch?
No, it's any surf perch.
Okay.
Yeah, we thought about making it barred perch only, but then you get into the
Yeah,
whole thing.
exactly.
And so surf perch, spot fin / yellowfin croaker.
Okay.
Corbina is a separate category. Gory. We got halibut and sharks / rays. So, figuring, okay, there's leopard, shark, halibut, whatever.
Yeah.
We don't currently have any categories for things like calico bass or white sea bass because we didn't think there'd be enough people.
Yeah, right. But so does a bat ray qualify?
Yeah. So, but
Wow.
again, it's a question is length, right? So
Yes.
right now, I think a bat ray would basically be like nose to base of tail. Right?
Okay.
But most of the others are fork length, right? So
Yes.
it's in basically the middle of the tail.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah. So that would be fun, because and see that's the other reason why we did the separated out most inches of fish versus the largest fish.
Yes.
Because one big leopard shark or bat ray kill everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly. You
Right.
wipe them out with a 200-pound bat ray or one
Right.
of those big critters.
Right.
Yeah.
But it could be that maybe you get into a hot perch bite, right? And maybe you get 15, 20, 6-inch perch. Well, that's 90 inches of fish.
Yeah.
So you could beat the leopard shark, right?
I've seen guys take that tact in these kind of tournaments and they just keep racking up the smaller fish and they end up winning.
Right.
Sometimes.
Yep. So that's, when we did the last tournament in 2019, that's actually what happened, right? So the guys that won did not catch the largest fish, but they caught a ton of like 6 to 7-inch perch.
Yeah.
And because it's all catch and release, right? There's no limit, so you
Yes.
just keep going. So yeah, like I said, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds great. Now, there's certain limitations on the fly fishing guys, right? I mean, they get to use, is that still going on or was that the previous?
Previous ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about that though, because that was
okay.
so interesting the way you guys used to do it.
Yeah. Well, so and so some of it needs to be put in a sort of historical context.
Yeah,
right?
please.
So I think it was 2007 or 2008, a gentleman by the name of Al Quattrochi, who lives up in Santa Monica or West LA area, somewhere in there, put together a fly fishing tournament that he called One Surf Fly. And it was based, so trout guys or fly fishermen in general have sort of crazy ideas for different things like this, right?
Yeah.
So it turns out in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, there is a trout fishing tournament called One Fly. And the rule in that tournament is if you're a competitor, you get one fly for the entire event, and if you lose it, you have to stop fishing. Well, so Al took that that concept and turned it into a surf fishing event. Okay, so in One Surf Fly, you basically get one fly to fish with, and if you lose it, you're out.
Oh,
you
my
basically
God.
have to stop.
Pressure.
Right, but then the other part of it is, everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people that get into fly fishing eventually wind up tying flies. And so the interesting wrinkle about One Surf Fly was in order to compete, you had to bring a fly, and it got put in the pot, and then before you went out for your fishing, you pull the fly out at random.
Oh, wow.
And that was the fly that you had to fish with for the event.
Oh, my God.
And so, some people go, oh, somebody's going to turn in a really lousy fly.
That's what I'm thinking. Some Machiavellian kind of like, I'm going to throw a rotten fly in there, and that guy's eliminated.
Right.
He's like, yeah.
Well, but see...
Was that okay to do that? I guess it was, right?
It would be, except that everybody realized so people started talking like that, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm going to, tie something really bad, right? Well, then they realized, well, okay, so that means I could pull out a bad fly.
Yeah, if everybody starts doing that.
Yeah, then everybody's got lousy flies, and then nobody does any good.
Exactly.
So then everybody realized that was counterproductive.
Yeah.
And, everybody starts putting in their best shot at it. And at the end of the event, the person that wins, from the fishing standpoint, the person that tied the fly that person used got the same prize. So that was sort of cool.
Yeah,
fly
very
tire
cool.
and fly
Oh, that's
fisherman.
very cool.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun, the last event, we tried to extend that to conventional fishermen, right? The same sort of model, but that doesn't work because everybody just goes buys a lure. It's not the same effect.
Yeah,
know,
right,
so
right.
Too confusing.
Yes.
But yeah, so that was the one surf fly event, and that actually went on till I think it was 2016. So we did it for 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of work though, as you can imagine. It was Al and another gentleman by the name of Shane Chung who
Yes.
passed away unfortunately a while ago.
Sorry.
Yeah, but he and Shane basically put this event on all up and down the coast. So they got, I think, as far south as Ocean Beach in San Diego and as far north as Rincon. They had some at Dockweiler, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And usually the events were sponsored by one of the local fly shops.
Yeah.
So the events up in the northern end of the spectrum were usually hosted by the Fisherman's Spot in Van Nuys. And then I think the one down south that I went to was sponsored by the fly shop in Point Loma, which is no longer around. But
Yeah.
the idea was get some more business for the shops, and then also the proceeds from each of the one surf flies went to a charity.
Yeah.
You know,
Great.
Fishing oriented comfort.
Sounds like a win-win deal.
Yeah. So when Al decided to, he had to wind down the event in 2016. There's another organization called the Southwest Council of Fly Fishers International. Right.
I think I've heard Nick talk about that many times.
Exactly. So they're an umbrella organization that basically has as its constituents most, if not all, of the fly fishing clubs in Southern California. And there's actually, I'd say, over a dozen clubs.
Oh, okay.
You wouldn't think that, but they're there.
Right.
And so the Southwest Council wanted to pick that up. They didn't want to see it go because it was such a popular event.
Yeah.
And so they needed somebody to come up with and organize a similar kind of event. And that's where Riptide Rendezvous came about. And so my involvement with it is I have a website called Beyond the Breakwater, and that
BeyondTheBreakwater.com?
you can get it that way. Right now, I tried to make it shorter.
Yeah, what is it?
btb.fishing.
Better. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So a Baker.fishing.
Perfect.
And so that website's focused around coastal and offshore fishing, right? So in small boat saltwater fly fishing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So a lot of it's just about little boats. You know, I have a 17.5-foot Edgewater that I take offshore. So I've been as far out as a 60-mile bank in San Clemente.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're getting out there.
Well, and you know, I tell people, okay, between 4-stroke and high-tech 2-stroke outboards and satellite emergency technology and all these different things.
You feel relatively safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, obviously the ride's not as comfortable as a
Right.
big boat. But,
Right.
You know, you get all these different opportunities that I probably would never have gotten before, right?
Yeah.
If I didn't have all this gear, I wouldn't go that far out. But anyway, as part of that website, I had actually held a number of coastal and offshore fly fishing tournaments.
Yes.
So I had one called the 3Bs, Bass, Bonita, and Barracuda.
Yeah.
And that was held out at Dana Landing in Mission Bay. And that basically got a bunch of people that had boats that saltwater fly fished. We did, you know, basically La Jolla, that area.
Yeah.
And there's another one called Tide, Tuna Yellowtail Dorado, TYD, that was basically largest fish fly fishing. And so anyway, I had conducted these two events. And so the Southwest Council was aware of them and knew who I was. And when they needed somebody to take over and organize this surf event, they asked me if I would do it. And so I'm not
And
really...
you foolishly said yes.
Yes, exactly. That's one of those things that you start out going, oh, this should be easy.
Yeah, I know. Believe me.
Yeah. And then after you've done it you start working on it, you go, oh my God, I can't believe it's this much work.
Yeah, I know. I mentioned our Mexico drive. Oh my God, that turned into a full-time job, and I'm really happy we did it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
And you look back on it maybe later and you go, well, it was worth it.
Yeah,
It didn't
right.
feel like it at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, so the Southwest Council has a website, SWCFFI, so Southwest Council Fly Fishers International.org.
Okay.
And there's a /Riptide, RAPTIDE, and that's got all the information on the event. You know,
And how to sign up.
how to sign up.
Yeah.
We're going to have some logoed gear that's available for sale. And again, this is all a fundraiser, right?
Yes.
So the net proceeds from the event is going to be split between the Coastal Conservation Association, California.
So you're working
CCAC.
with Wayne and Chris?
Right.
Great.
Exactly. They're great guys.
Fantastic. Yes.
Yep. And then, so it's split between those two organizations.
Excellent.
Yeah. So we're hoping, like I mentioned the last time we did it, about a quarter of the people were regular tackle guys.
Yeah.
And we had to do a little arm twisting to get people out, but but I think everyone enjoyed it.
I don't think you're going to have that trouble this time. I think a lot of guys will participate. One thing that I like the fact that you're combining that because, John, I don't have to tell you. Some of these blue collar guys look at you fly fishermen and think, oh,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
elite. And
Yeah.
you are anything but that. I can see that quite clearly. But that kind of perception exists, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Fly fishermen are elitists.
Well, and it sort of goes both ways too. Like the very first event that we did, where we were talking about having the conventional guys in there, I had people send me emails that say, we were going to participate, but if you allow regular tackle fishermen on the
Right.
beach, we're not going.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Aren't we like one big happy family?
Family?
Yeah, working towards the betterment of outdoor conservation and recreation.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and it's the same way with my website. I fish conventional tackle about as much as I do fly fishing.
Yeah.
I like fly fishing tremendously, but I troll Mad Max and
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I throw surface iron if I have to, right? It's all good.
Yeah.
Right. It's just whatever you feel.
You mentioned a moment ago that you go as far as the 60-mile bank, and you've had some incredible opportunities. Care to share some of those opportunities? I mean, what are some of the incredible catches you've made on the fly?
Well, on the fly or from my boat?
Well, let's go from your boat because we
Yeah.
can go both ways. I know a
Right.
lot of guys are going to be interested in that too.
Well, the most memorable catch I made in my boat was I got a 135-pound marlin while trolling for tuna.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
was this recently?
No, it was a number of years ago.
Yeah.
But I have a friend, Scott Leon, who used to have a 4-pack charter out of Mission Bay. We go way back because he used to be the editor for Fly Fishing and Saltwaters magazine.
His name rings a bell with me.
Yeah,
so,
he was the associate editor at Marlin magazine. So we used to fish a lot together.
Yeah.
I had a pair of outriggers that I purchased, and so I was trying them out. And so we were trolling spreader bars, and a trailer jig, right, shotgun jig, out by the 226. And so we're just going along. And, I'd never had a jig strike on an outrigger before. And when that fish hit, though, that outrigger, when it goes off, it sounds like a gunshot, right?
Yeah,
You're going along,
right.
all of a sudden it's like, pow! And, it's
so
like,
exciting, right?
yeah, and I thought, what was that? And then the marlin passes us on the side of the boat, right? It took one of the spreader bars and just went screaming up the side of the boat.
Wow.
And it's like, oh my God, and so I was lucky because Scott handled the boat. He let me take the fish. And it was also memorable because the spreader bar that he took was a tiny little spreader bar that was really meant more for tuna, and so I didn't have a very strong hook in it.
Yeah.
And when we got the fish in and released it, it turns out the hook had actually opened, and the only reason that it didn't come out was he had taken the spreader bar in his mouth and clamped down on it, and so the hook came in from the outside of the opposite side. And
Yeah.
For better, just by sheer luck, we had sort of maneuvered the boat so that the pressure was always through his mouth, not pulling out.
And it was by sheer luck.
Sheer luck.
Wow.
And so that was the most memorable.
Yeah.
I think the fly catch that I remember the best was had a near world record, but for yellowtail on the fly. But I typically fish using IGFA compliant gear, right?
Yes.
And most people, I think, know the International Game Fish Association is the organization that keeps world records,
Yes.
right? And they give you world records according to the breaking strength of your line,
Yes.
right? And so it turns out fly gear in IGFA rules is limited from 2-pound test up to 20-pound maximum. You
Yeah.
can't fish anything heavier.
Really?
Right.
Wow.
And so, you can if you want, but if you catch something on heavier line, then it doesn't count.
Yeah.
And so many years ago, I was fishing off the 425, and it was that year where there was just yellowtail everywhere. And
On kelps, I'm guessing?
yeah. And so we came upon a kelp that we could tell there were fish on it.
Yeah.
And we did the normal thing, and they weren't huge fish. They were in the mid-teens kind of thing.
Those are nice kelp patty fish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh, well, if we get far enough away, I'm going to try it on a fly rod, and I'm going to try it on light tackle. So I got one of those fish on 6-pound test.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 14 pounds, 11 ounces, on 6-pound test.
Tell me what that felt like when you got bit. That must have just sent a surge of electricity. I mean, it's so cool, right?
Yeah, well, and that was the other part. You're drifting away from the kelp patty, right? And we knew the fish were following us because we could see them.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I threw the fly out there, the yellowtail that I hooked actually came out of the water to get it before it hit the water.
Really?
Yeah, I could see him come from the side as the fly got near the water. He went, poof.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, the only reason I could land it was because he was going sideways at the time, right? And 6-pound test, I don't even know that they know they're hooked, right? And
right.
He takes off, and when he went away from the patty, we put the boat between him and the patty, so he never got back.
Gotcha.
Right. So 45 minutes later, got him.
Wow, what an incredible catch, and what an incredible memory to see that yellowtail come out of the water. Are you kidding me?
That was a long time ago. I still remember it to this day.
I can imagine. Like, how long ago that this memory has stuck with you?
God, at least 10 years.
God.
Something like that. So it's longer than that, but I don't remember the exact
These
date.
indelible memories created by fishing and being in the outdoors, it never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah. I mean, at some level, it's, I feel just as excited when my sons caught their first fish.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing, right?
Probably more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you see that light in their eyes and you know that now they're part of this fraternity, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're hopeful that's Riptide Rendezvous. So we wound up canceling 2020 and, let's see, 2020, 21, and 22 because of COVID.
Right.
Right. So we were all ready to do 2020, and then Santa Barbara pulled the permits, right, because of COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, we were sort of struggling for a venue where we could get people out and back together without sort of forcing people into that felt uncomfortable.
Yes.
With being in close quarters. And so, well, of course, now the restrictions are lifted, but we came up with the idea of, sort of the virtual event, multi-day, get everybody out. You don't have to stand next to your buddy, it's just the only time you need to be close to somebody is at the event at the end.
And you can fish day or night?
Day or night.
Wow.
It just needs to be in the surf, and it needs to be in that geographic region.
Does fishing off a jetty constitute fishing in the surf?
I think...
That's how, yeah,
I don't know.
I don't either, right?
Yeah, I would say, I think based on the general rules, I would say maybe not.
Okay.
But
you want to be standing on a beach.
Yeah, standing on a beach. That's a good question. I'll take it back to the powers that be and see what they think.
Yeah, right, because as I said, we're doing a surf fishing tournament on May 19th and 20th, and so my brain is like going, I'm learning a lot from you, number one. And number two, that would be a question. Some guy comes in with a big halibut he caught on the jetty, and then he gets disqualified.
Right,
because
he's
like ready to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what kind of prizes do we have involved in this whole thing?
Well, mostly it's bragging rights. So
great.
Yeah. So for the initial, I'm going to say performance prizes, right? The most inches in a day, largest fish. We're sort of debating between sort of like stylized beer mugs, glass beer mugs, or something like along those lines.
Yeah, that's cool.
And again, it's a fundraiser, so basically everybody that enters gets one raffle ticket into the raffle at the end, and so
and that's how the prizes are distributed.
Yes, and so the real point is a fundraiser, right?
Yes,
and
correct.
So we want people to come out and basically participate in the raffle. Now we've done what we've done in the past is sort of an interesting variation of that too, and that's buy your tickets, and what we do is we basically put all of the prizes out ahead of time so you can see. Right?
Yes.
And so in between the time that the event starts, people go eat, and then the time we do the awards, we actually have buckets in front of each of the prizes. So you can take your raffle tickets and put them wherever you think you want to.
You want to win that prize.
Right. You can put all of them in there.
Yeah, perfect.
Right. And so, that way you get people that are sort of like, oh, I got the bag of gulp worms. It's like, well, I can get that in the tackle store thing.
Yeah.
So that's worked out really well. And this year, so right now we're still working on the conventional tackle raffle prizes. So we know Chris and Wayne will come through on that
Yes.
side. So we're focused on the fly side, and on the fly side, so far we've got the grand prize in either side is going to be a complete rod reel line combo from a name brand, of course, right? And so
Yes.
on the fly side, we've got a Redington Predator fly rod, a Grande reel, and a Rio outbound short fly line. So those three things together, MSRP is about $700.
Whoa, very nice prize.
So we have, and then historically, I can't say that we actually have them right now, but we've had companies like Patagonia, and there's a company called Snowbee that's a major supporter of the Southwest Council. So they usually put in a lot of good stuff.
That's great.
Yeah, and like I said, I know Chris is working on trying to get, I call it a Bill Varney compliant, setup, right? So it's going to be a
Hey, Bill.
yeah. It's going to be probably a medium light spinning rod, 6.5 to 7.5 foot long,
Yeah.
right? Light line, spinning reel, maybe 4,000 size, that sort of thing. So it's something that somebody could actually use.
Yeah,
right.
for sure. So if I have the most inches in the tournament, what do I get? More raffle tickets, or do you get a prize
No, just
for
the
that?
bragging right. Just
Bragging
the
rights.
rights.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's that makes it so much better actually, because you don't want to induce somebody doing so. In this way, it's a raffle. It's for the fundraisers, the main thing. It's about getting out and enjoying surf fishing. I love the way you guys are putting this together. It sounds great.
Yeah, the thing, I always get so we have sort of different philosophies. The group of us that are sort of working on this, and I, as an engineer, I tend to overwork everything, right? And so it's like, oh well, what if this or what if that? So the question of people not complying with the rules always comes up. And,
Cheating, in
yes,
other words.
right. In other words, cheating.
Yes.
And I guess the general thought was, man, if you must have a lot of problems to want to cheat like this, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what the same conclusion we came to.
Yeah, and so we're not. If we see something really egregious, we'll address it.
Right.
But if maybe I was on the wrong side of, I forgot the estuary that is the border up in Santa Barbara County.
Yeah.
If I'm on the wrong side of the estuary, we're not gonna. Right, because that's a reasonable mistake.
Yes.
But if somebody goes into Mexico, right, and now they're
Comes back with a whole cooler full of big giant barred perch.
yeah, that's going to be a problem. You know.
right.
So we're trying to, but we're,
It's a work in progress,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's how I look at it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so we're not that concerned. It's just like so gear wise, fly fishermen is pretty straightforward. You got to use some sort of generally accepted fly gear.
Okay.
Okay, so single-handed or two-handed rods, regular flies. Not allowed. So years ago, you used to be able to buy little tiny spoons and plugs and stuff like that.
Yes.
Those aren't allowed. It's got to be a conventional fly.
Okay.
On the conventional side, is basically no bait, artificial lures only.
Perfect.
Right, but you can do typical kind of things: grubs, gulp, lucky craft, crocodiles, any of that stuff.
Gulp you can use.
Yeah, gulp. I know that's sort of another one of those. Is that bait or not? Well, we're saying okay, it's plastic. So
Yeah. Okay.
but I don't know, sand crabs, cut, anchovies or what is
You
not
can't
part
do
of it.
that.
Right.
Right.
So
Right.
it's strictly hardware.
Lucky crabs, crocodiles, all that stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff goes.
Yeah, right.
So it might very well be that maybe we won't see as many corbina on that side, but we'll see more halibut, right,
Yeah,
or something like
possibly,
that.
yeah. A
or,
lot of yellowfin croaker, maybe.
yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see. So and after the previous events, we always sort of do a complete statistical breakdown, right?
Yeah.
What did people use? How many fish have you
Oh, that's
signed?
great.
Yeah, and so it's it's been fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. So the day of the award ceremony, where is it? And tell me about that.
Thanks.
That day.
I forgot about that. So it's going to be June 24th, and it's going to be in the Long Beach Casting Club.
Oh,
Now,
that's very close. That's
Yeah.
a lovely place, actually.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. And for people that aren't familiar with it, I think it's just off of 7th Street.
Yes.
There's a dog park and a major park
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool. It's good because it also has free parking, right? You just park out in the grass, and It's a beautiful clubhouse. Right?
It is.
Yeah, and it's got a casting pond, so it's probably not so much for the conventional guys, but fly fishermen can bring their, practice casting, whatever. And so we typically have food available. Again, it's a fundraiser, so food's not free.
Right.
But
So you pay some amount to have
nominal
lunch
amount.
there or whatever. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, depending on the number of people, if it's a small number of people, we'll probably do the usual hamburger, hot dog,
Yeah.
chips,
Yeah.
drink. But if we get enough people, we in the past have contracted with a food truck.
Oh,
so we've
nice.
done tacos
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
The last event I was there went to there was something called Double Hall Ball, and they had a catering company do a taco bar.
Nice.
Yeah, so it can be fun.
Can I show up to that? If I don't participate in the surf fishing, can I show up and buy raffle tickets? Is that possible or not?
I think I'll have to double check, but I think that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, because the main thing of the event, like I said, is
Fundraising.
outreach. Yeah, fundraising and outreach.
Yeah.
So the more the merrier. But we hope that nobody tries to make off with the little beer mugs.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly.
But so I think it'll be good. And that particular venue, because I'm anticipating if it's sunny that most of it will actually be outside and not in the clubhouse. Right?
Yeah,
People
right.
go into the clubhouse to get food, but everything else will be outside. Take a lot of people.
Yeah, it should be great. Yeah, I mean, we had a casting practice session right next to that, and we had over 100 people show up to this event.
Yeah, that's
It
great.
was so much fun. But I walked over and talked to those folks a little bit and had some conversations with them. And yeah, I love the whole vibe there. It was really, really nice. It looks really good.
Yeah, it's a nice place to go. Yeah, so we're excited, and like I said, I thank you for having us.
Hey,
letting
it's
me come
great,
on here and talk.
John. You're a great person. It's really nice to have you on. A couple more questions for
Sure.
you. Your website. Do you do guiding or anything like that? Do
No.
you take people, or you're just
Well, I'll
spreading the word?
yeah, it's more spreading the word.
Yeah.
And I tried to make it into the actual origin of the website is I said I'm an engineer by
Yes.
training, but actually for the last 20 some odd years, I've worked mainly in IT or programming. And so I was at a stage in my life where I bought the boat and I'm thinking, how can I monetize this? How can I get out and do something to offset the payments, right?
Yeah, right.
And I needed to brush up on some programming skills. So I basically put together the original website to support that, right? And so I was learning about different kinds of programming techniques for the web, because I actually started the website in 2001, so it's been around a long time.
Yeah.
And I had, they have these things, paywalls now. You
Yes.
want to see the Wall Street Journal, they make you pay,
Right.
right? Well, so I had actually come up with that concept and tried to implement it on my website.
Yeah.
But then I realized after, it was probably a couple months, people would rather spend 3 hours searching for free content than they would to pay $1 for the article.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so now the website's mostly a storage place for content that I've developed over the years, and it's free, right? And so I'm hoping to do more with like the different kinds of advertising, click-through advertising
Right,
kind of
right,
stuff,
right.
And then, maybe I'll resurrect the tournaments. I stopped doing them in 2010 because I had to focus on other stuff, and I haven't picked it up again. So I might do that still.
Yeah.
Because now I'm thinking if I could do my 3Bs tournament and hold like for example, the Bass, Barracuda, Bonita tournament, and maybe have it centered around Long Beach Casting Club, that would be great.
Yeah.
Because you got all the bass fish, you got Catalina, you got people that might want to go out, you got Horseshoe, all these places coastally, PV, that could participate in that. That would be fly fishing only though, not conventional.
Yes, yes.
So if I did that in Long Beach, and then I could still do the TYD down at Dana Landing.
Yeah.
Because that's where the tuna and stuff are. So, So there's a ton of content on there, a lot of which over the years is sort of, I'm constantly working to keep it updated.
Yes.
But, it's things like, I'm working on a couple of quick videos. So everybody has, when you go offshore, you have to carry at least a pack of 4 signal flares.
Yes.
Right. And so, first off, I was like everybody else. You buy them, they expire in 2 years, and you have to go out and buy another pack. Right.
Yeah.
So now you've got this stack of expired flares, right? What do
Yeah,
you do with
right.
them? Sometimes
Have
people...
a fireworks show, huh?
Yeah, right. Return them to the fire department. And some
Yeah.
people say, well, you just put them in a bag, and use them first, right?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out, I didn't realize this, but the Coast Guard recently published an article that said, hey, there's probably no point in saving your old flares because we've tested a bunch of them and they're just not reliable.
Yeah.
Right? And I thought, oh, I'm going to test that. I've got some old flares.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So that's one of the videos coming up, and pretty much confirmed what the Coast Guard was saying.
Really?
But
You'll have to share that with me. I'll share that with my
yeah.
audience. That's great.
It's interesting. They said, here's the problem. It may light, so people don't realize. Those flares are actually sort of like humongous matches with special chemicals.
Uh-huh.
And so you light them the same way you light them with light a match. And they're designed, so you think back to grade school. What's the fire triangle? Fuel, air, and an ignition source, right?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out, normally we put out a fire by smothering it. Water, CO2, something like that.
Right.
Well, it turns out flares are designed to not be smothered, right? They create their own oxygen. So you light a flare, it's going to burn even if you put it in water.
Oh, right.
Right? Because that's what you want it to do.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so, so what they found out was the flares did either not light, they didn't burn long enough, or they went out when they got submerged. So I've got the video that I'm coming out with. I brought a bunch of my expired flares, and sure enough, one burned okay. One wouldn't even ignite. The other two were extinguished after the second time I put them underwater.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the other thing that people don't know about flares, or they probably would if you looked at the pack, it says this thing is going to generate some slag, basically molten metal and plastic. And so you don't want to be waving it over your head,
no
right?
Kidding, right?
Yeah, and you don't want any of this stuff to drop in your fiberglass boat either.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you don't think about that, right?
Right.
And so if you're in the situation where you're going to use a flare, your first reaction is I'm going to light it off and I'm going to wave it over my head to get attention from somebody.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, right. You're going to need plastic surgery after that, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and somebody asked me, well, what about my flare guns? And it's like, I can't test that, right? I can't shoot it off in the water because that'll cause an emergency reaction.
Right.
Can't do it on land because I'll start a forest fire or something, right?
Right.
But they all have expiration dates too. So I would suspect that, like my 12 gauge flare gun, pull the trigger, may not go off.
Right.
Right. Or it may not go to the flares have to go to a certain height and then burn. Might not go to the desired height. Might not burn as long as you like.
Yeah.
Well, so it turns out, the alternative now is there's a couple of different signaling devices, electronic signaling devices that you can get, right?
Yeah.
So that basically it's a high intensity strobe that uses D-cell batteries, right? And then there's signal flags and different things you can do.
Yeah.
So talking about like what we talk about, flares, why you wouldn't use it, or why you would, alternatives to that, that's the kind of stuff that's on Beyond
I
the
love
Breakwater.
that. Not only really fascinating stuff, but life and death, actually. That
Right.
can save your life, that kind of knowledge.
Right. Well, and the other one, sometimes the other part of that was supposed to be behind the original concept was let's attack some of the questions, because the internet's, what's the expression? They're like noses, everyone has one and they smell, right?
Yes,
There's another part of the anatomy, right, that people talk about,
Yes,
right?
most of the time. But
Yeah, most of the
that
time.
one we can get away with.
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to come up with
That's a good one. I like it.
G-rated one, right? So, so there are a bunch of different things over the years where you see it and you go, oh, that can't be right.
Yeah.
So like one of them was back when Evinrude still existed, they had a technology called E-Tech,
Yes.
right? So it was a high-tech two-stroke engine that they claimed polluted less than a four-stroke.
Right.
Right, and had required less maintenance, and of course that, created a ton of misinformation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I think I'll be brave. I was due for a repower, and so I said, I'm going to put an E-Tech on my boat, and I'm going to keep detailed cost and performance records and stuff. So that's one of the articles that's on the.
That is
series
great.
Yeah, so I kept the motor for. Well, I still have it actually, and so it's 15. No, it's about 15, 20 years old. and kept records and what it cost and all the things that broke on it or didn't break and different things.
That's amazing stuff.
Yeah. So there's I think a 5-part series of articles that talk about, the initial controversy and, the good and the bad and reliability and pollution constraints and stuff like that. And, it's unfortunate that Evinrude gave up the ghost on that.
Yeah, right. So people can find all that kind of information on your website, and that address again is what?
btb.fishing. So Baker Tango Baker .fishing, right?
Oh, very good.
Yeah, and I also have a YouTube channel, similar kind of thing. So this is sort of
What's
fun.
the channel?
Well, I've forgotten what I call it. I think it might be BTBFF or something like that.
Okay.
But if you do a search for Beyond the Breakwater, you'll
find it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got some cool things in there. Like one of the things that was interesting about the E-Tech, it's a 90 horse. The one I've got is a 90 horse 3-cylinder, and it's pull startable. So which is unusual for an engine that size to be able to pull start it with a rope. But, and I actually needed it one time when my batteries went out, and I was trying to.
Comes in handy, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But when I tried it, I couldn't get it to start, and I thought, oh, damn. Evinrude. They sold me a bunch of goods, and so finally I said, you know what? I should probably figure out why it didn't start. Well, it turns out the reason it didn't start was because I didn't have the key on.
That's funny. I love it.
So once I turned on the key, I could pull start it. So I did a video about that because that was also one of these internet things where people say, I've never seen anybody start that motor before.
Right. They have the key off.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So I did that. So that video actually has over 85,000 views on it.
That's really good traffic.
Yeah, but over 12 years.
That's great.
7,000 views a year. Yeah, that's not bad.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I've got a few others like typical boat owner kind of problems, right? So I have my boat in the garage, and the trailer was too long for the garage, and so I changed the trailer tongue to a swing tongue, right? So I've got a series of that.
Yeah.
It shows the steps and the processes, and that's the kind of stuff
I love it. And you're an engineer, so I'm sure you go into everything.
It's all the things that went wrong, right?
Yes.
So it's like, you're going to do it yourself. Here's something you ought to look out for, right?
Right.
Like even something as stupid as like I put an electric motor on the bow, and it's like, oh, you know what? The bolts they gave me aren't long enough to do this, right? So you need to look for this, right?
Right. That's great. Bringing it back to the surf fishing tournament, one thing that I like about it also is a lot of guys that fish aren't aware of how wonderful our surf fishing can be, how economical it is, and how you can accomplish it almost on any given day. You can go down to the surf and fish for an hour or two.
Absolutely.
So it's a great thing, right?
Right. And that's the other thing about the website. So most fly fishermen don't surf fly fish. But there's resources on the website that I mentioned earlier that list out a bunch of things, articles, online content that might help them get started. There are probably 3 or 4 guides that will help you.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and they'll actually, if you're interested, most of these guys also can do it sort of like on an educational basis, right?
Yes.
So you want to learn more about how to do it, they'll take you down to the beach and show you how to do it.
That's
everything.
Great. Yeah.
And usually the guides provide, the rods and reels and the flies, so you can see what they're using and how they use it and the spots they pick and
that's great.
Strategy. Yeah, absolutely. But it can be very convenient too, right?
Right. Exactly.
My house is 7 miles from the beach, from Carlsbad, right? And I work 5 minutes from the beach, right? So I used to go out at lunch.
Right.
Right, it's that sort of thing.
Oh my God, you get a little vitamin C, right?
Right.
SEA, and just enjoy
exactly.
it. Yeah,
right,
exactly.
A little sunshine.
Exactly. So one more time again, the dates of that tournament and how do people sign up, my friend?
Okay, so the tournament runs from May 27th to June 23rd, and then the award ceremony is June 24th. Got to be present to pick up your prize and win.
Okay, if you're not there, you don't get the prize.
Yeah, so what we'll do is, if let's say you place first and you don't show up for the thing, we're gonna slide down one. Sort of thing.
Gotcha.
Because again, it's mostly bragging rights.
Right, exactly.
Registration ends on May 26th, so the day before the tournament starts. And to register, the easiest way is to go to our event website, which is swcffi.org.
Okay.
Or, Southwest Council Fly Fishers International.org/Riptide.
Okay.
Riptide. So that if you go to that URL, and there's also it'll be on the Southwest Council's on Facebook, and also Riptide Rendezvous is also on Instagram.
Perfect.
So if you do a search for Riptide Rendezvous, you should be able to find them that way as well. If you go to the web page, we've got pretty much everything you need in terms of where to go to register, the rules, all that sort of stuff. We'll keep updating it as prizes are available.
Perfect.
Yeah, we've got a news feed that basically says, hey, so and so has just joined us as a sponsor. So you can see eventually the full pool when we get it there.
Excellent. I love it. Have we failed to cover anything? Did we get it all?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, more than anything, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much, John. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Phil.
it. I'm going to do my best to be at the event at least on June 24th.
Okay,
right?
yeah, we would really appreciate it.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Maybe we can even do some kind of a live show when you're handing out prizes and,
Yeah, that'd be
do
great.
all that stuff.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. I think I would.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Who knows? You never
Yeah.
know. A lot of people say, oh, get him out of here.
Yeah, right.
John, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks again. It's been a pleasure. Thank
Pleasure.
you for having me.
Thank you.